Good afternoon, Bacho. How are you?
Good afternoon, ma'am.
Good afternoon.
What's new? How's the preparation going on? How's everything? Yes, Shivani. Anything new?
Yes, yes, ma'am. Preparation is going well, ma'am,
And
and everything is as usual in my life.
nothing new? Bring
Almost
some
nothing
changes.
new, ma'am.
Then bring some changes, na, bache. Changes are necessary. Bring some changes in your schedule, changes in your life. What about you, Saptarishi? How's everything?
Yes, ma'am. Everything is going as usual. The preparation is going on as much as I can do.
Uh,
So yes, this is this is what is going on. I mean, everything is going according to what the time we have and what is routine and all that. So everything is as usual. Nothing new in the sense.
okay. So we were discussing about violence,
Yes,
right?
ma'am.
In the last classroom, what did we discuss?
We
We
are
discussed.
discussing about the causes of violence. What causes mass violence?
I think moral responsibility was done, right?
Yes, ma'am. Moral responsibility also completed.
Yes, moral responsibility is done. Okay. So by moral responsibility, we have understood that leaders, executors, bystanders, all of them have like they all are responsible for this violence, right? This we have understood. Come in. Take your time. It's okay. Settle down. Okay, so in the last class, we discussed that how leaders, executors, and bystanders they are responsible for violence. How they are basically creating violence. We discussed about authorities also. We discussed about different responsibilities, and we discussed it with an example of ISS, and then you give example of Ram Mandir. Okay, so we understood what moral responsibility is, right? So what did we get from last class? That authorities, state, police, they are not only sole responsible for this violence. We being citizen, we are also responsible for it, right? Now moving to the other theory, that is just war theory. Many mass violence acts fail ethical test. What this slide might be saying to us? What it means? Arya?
The mass violence is a result of an ethical failure.
Hmm.
When people are ethically not able to understand morality, which resultant cause a mass violence.
Okay, so Saptarishi?
Uh, can you repeat the question also?
What this slide is speaking to us?
Okay, so in certain cases, someone might say argue that in certain cases, like in war, mass violence can be ethical regarding the situation and all that. Like for example, we can say the war of Mahabharata, or let's say anything like the India's Operation Sindoor. These things can be called ethical regarding their how they are used and what is the context their violence was used. So in a sense, regarding certain cases, certain contexts, we can actually might say that mass violence is ethical, though not moral, but it can be ethical.
Okay, so when we talk about this, just war theory asks us the question that when you will say that war is ethical, right? So when you are going to justify, on what basis you are going to justify that wars are what? These are, justified, right? And another thing, that how these wars can fought ethically. So this is what exactly this just war theory explains us. Do you have answer to this? Basically, this is asking us that how we can like fought these war ethical, and then again, if those war are like fought, on what basis we'll call it ethical, right? What will be the basis of it? Who will dictate? Who will basically decide? Who will justify it? On what basis will justify it? Do you have answer of this?
Ma'am, maybe when violence is used to protect ourselves from physical force others are imposing, when others are
Okay.
oppressing people and we fight back using violence, then that can be justified.
Okay, protection. Another thing, Saptarishi.
Well, what I feel like is that the idea of ethics is if a action is ethical or not depends on the perspective, like who is actually deciding. Like for example, this India's attack on Pakistan was ethical in case of India, but when we look through the view from Pakistan's angle, it might be not ethical. So everything actually depends on the perspective of the who is actually deciding what is ethical and what is not.
Okay, perspective, and then we have another thing which is protection. What else? Hmm.
The violence against our dignity
Hmm.
is just a cable.
Okay.
According to me, we can put
Dignity. Okay, good. With the reference of feminine. Do you agree with what RS said?
I couldn't hear her, so
Okay. So when we talk about this war theory, what this war theory tells us, that not every war is justifiable to us, right? But there are few wars which can be justified if they are following the rules and regulation which are coming in ethics. But then again, the question again revolves that who is going to decide that is what is right and what is wrong? Because ethics, when we talk about ethics, this present the question about right and wrong. But then again, there is no clear definition of these two terms, right? Sorry, it actually varies, right? So same is with this also. So if these rules are broken according to just war theory, there are certain rules that are basically told to us that we have to follow in ethics ethically, right? And if those rules and regulations are basically not followed, then they'll be considered as what? They'll be considered as unjust. This is what this war theory explained to us. Now, when we talk about these two main parts of just war theory, first is just and Ballam. Okay, when we talk about this is basically telling us just go to war, right? So before starting a war, these conditions must be satisfied. First is just cause. First is what? Cause. What do you think it might be saying to us? The first thing, cause. What this word is explaining to us. Okay,
what is the reason?
good.
What is the reason behind the war, or what is the context? Why this war is being fought by some person or a party? So in this case, we are just looking at the reasons or the context behind the wars to decide if it is ethical or not.
Exactly. So basically, what this is telling to us, first is just cause. It means, what is the reason? Self-defense was the reason. Genocide is the reason. Sorry, stopping genocide was the reason, right? So what we understand in here, that what is the cause, right? Second one, we have legitimate authority. How it is coming in here?
and like who is responsible and taking the leadership
Okay, Saptarishi.
Yes, sir. So we can actually have to see who is actually fighting the war. For example, if some, let's say IS, if a party is backed by IS, Islamic states, or other such kind of organizations, then this war can never be ethical because it is not backed by some legitimate authority. But in case of like India actually declaring war on terrorism in Pakistan and all that, so these things can be called ethical because it is done by some legitimate organization that is a state or a government of a nation.
Okay, good. So after this, third we have is right intention. So this is the third pointer which says that your intention should be like right. If you are like fighting for the society, if the violence is created for the society, then we can justify it. Then another fourth part is last resort. That you have basically, you know, adapted, you basically tried all the options, right? All the peaceful options, but still you cannot find the solution. Then it will be considered as last resort, that there is no way then like you can come to the solution without violence, right? Then after this we have probability. Why probability we have in here? आ रहे हैं बच्चे? Why probability? That harm must not be greater than benefit. ठीक है? It means what? If you are creating violence for some like good intention, as it is written, right intention should be there, right? My intention is that I want to save my society, right? Now on basis of that, if I am creating violence, then it should not create इतना ज्यादा violence कि you know जो हमारा goodness वाला purpose है, right? उसका portion बहुत ज्यादा कम आ रहा है, rather than हम creating in violence in the larger amount, ठीक है? तो outcome जो हमारा आएगा, जो result हमारे पास आएगा, that should be in a positive side more than creating any negative side, right? harm इतना ज्यादा नहीं आना चाहिए उसमें if you are creating violence. समझ में आया? Understood probability, Saptarishi?
Yes, sir.
Srinidhi बच्चे?
Yes, ma'am, understood.
Okay, so what did we understand from this? That before starting a war, these conditions must be satisfied. All the 5 conditions. Understood? That just cause should be there, right? And the second thing is legitimate authority, recognized government should be there. Right intention we should have. Last resort, probability, and then we have proportionality also. Sorry, the sixth one is also there. क्या है proportionality? Exactly. So probability is basically कि हमारे पास में कोई option नहीं है, like probability of the success is there, right? Basically it talks about कि जो हमारे पास में outcome आएगा, that will be on a good side only, right? ये है probability. Proportionate is like basically जो हमारे पास good result आएगा, that will be in larger amount. मैंने opposite बोल दिया, ठीक है? समझ में आया? So this first part just समझ में आया? Yes बच्चे?
I didn't understand proportionality. What is proportionality here?
I basically explained you the term of proportionality and probability. So probability is when you know understand that the outcome will be positive only, the outcome will be good only. This is probability. If the probability of like goodness is higher, then only you will conduct the violence, right? And proportionality is basically the number, the chances, the percentage of goodness will be you know higher than those basically the chaos in the society. Understood?
Yes, ma'am.
नहीं probability is like probability is कि हमें शायद it's like maybe, right? And when we talk about proportionality it's different कि हम लोग हमें पता है we know that there will be negative side also but it should be greater than that. समझ में आया? Okay. Next, first we have just at Bellum. This is the first one we had. Then the third is just in bellow. Okay, so the first one is just ad bellum. I think it's it's like right to go to war. Let me find out the real meaning of it. Although it's right to go to war, so it means it is giving some ethical rules and regulations, right? And it is giving a like basically green flag that you can go to war, you can create the violence. but on these ethical terms, right? Yes, yes, ethical rules these are. Yes, it's right to vote. Just at Bellum is right to vote. Okay? And just in bello is right conduct during vote. Okay? So there should be some conduct during vote that we are. So this is that you can go to war with these rules and regulations. Just in bello is basically during war what we have to do, right? So even if war is justified, right, must be followed. Right? The first one is distinction. Distinction. Distinction means what? Distinction between what? If you are fighting a war, if you are creating the violence, then why we are talking about distinction here? Srinidhi Bachche, can you mute yourself? Why, in
Yes.
which term we are talking about distinction? So distinction is basically if you are going to the war. So you have to create your audience also, that you will be targeting these people. So you have to separate the citizens from this war. This is the distinction. Suppose you are creating violence because you want to save your community from terrorist, right? So terrorist is your like attack, terrorist is your pinpointer, right? So you have to create the distinction between citizens while going with the war. ठीक है, तो उसमें अनहार्मफुल जो लोग हैं जिनका उन वोट से लेना देना नहीं है, जिनका उस वायलेंस से लेना देना नहीं है, उन्हें नुकसान नहीं होना चाहिए. अंडरस्टूड? दिस डिस्टिंक्शन शुड बी क्लियर. ठीक है. देन सेकंड इज प्रोपोर्शनैलिटी. No, here proportionality means that do not use excessive power, excessive force, right? If no, we know कि society में there is like chaos happening, ठीक है? And now police is there to manage that, right? And the police basically fired gun in the air, ठीक है? So this is not excessive force. But now imagine that they are using gas also, right? And basically they are, you know, doing lathi charge also. They are basically forming different type of violence, right? And that kind of violence which was not required in there, right? So this is what this proportionality is telling, that do not use excessive force, okay, which can turn out to be inhuman. समझ में आया? Second pointer. Understood, Saptarishi, Srinidhi? Got it, bachche? Okay. After this, we have third, military necessity. Why? During war, military necessity. Why do we require this? Whose survival? Okay, so here what this pointer is telling to us, that only take required type of like audience, required type of basically force over there. जितनी allow होनी चाहिए, जितनी requirement है, सिर्फ उतनी ही force लेकर जाओ. Why? What is the psychology behind this? There are 15 people who are being targeted. The violence is happening there. To control that, force has been sent. Right? So 15 people, right? So एक amount की ही force आनी चाहिए. So imagine there are like 100 or basically 1,000 of people with the force. What will happen? Exactly. So for this reason, we should have like only that amount of force which is required according to the situation. Okay? So if civilians are targeted, so it will become what? It will become mass violence. Till here, any question, anything that you want me to repeat? Proportionate. This. Okay. Saptarishi, will you explain proportionate? Then I'll explain with another example.
Yes, ma'am. So proportional, in this case, proportionality is like using using the force according to the situation. For example, we have the right to go use violence if the proportional the force is proportional or it is uh, balanced regarding where we are using it. Like for example, uh, like uh, like for example, let's say there is, for example, I am taking the example of Bangladesh in this case, but because when the student project started, it was peaceful at first. So in that situation, the government of Bangladesh actually used army to stop them, and they shot unarmed protester students. Students without any thinking about anything. So this is the way how this idea, the proportional use of force, is not being done by them. So as a result, the protest actually escalated, and ultimately we can see what happened in Bangladesh. So in essence, the proportional use of force should be there regarding any kind of violence if we can think that it is right to use violence and all that. So this is the basic idea how proportionality is being used.
Do not use excessive force is proportionate. ठीक है. So what proportionate is? अभी तुमने कल example बताया था of SSC, right? They were protesting, those students were protesting, but what basically police did? They basically, I think they did lathi charge, right? And they used different kinds of weapons against those students, right? So that's excessive force. You have to use force that is required in that position, as required in that position. If you are using excessive forces there, it will turn into mass violence.
Then how this is different from necessity?
This one is basically giving rules. This one, so this is talking about the population, people, like how much force you have to carry. Exactly, jitni zyada force tum carry. Okay, there is a psychological theory to this. If you will basically keep a gun, if you will keep an instrument, ठीक है, तो our basically mind keeps on generating तुम्हारे पास weapon है, and this goes with like international rules also. हमारे पास में डिफेंस को कम करने के लिए, डिफेंस के लिए हम लोग क्या करते हैं, अपनी पावर इंक्रीज करते जा रहे हैं. We are moving towards nuclear power. Why we are moving towards nuclear power? To tell everyone that even I also have weapon, right? So this gives sense of satisfaction, sense of protection, right? So if you are taking large number of protection over there where it is not required, right? So somewhere it will create what excessive power it will create, right? So अगर हमारे पास में excessive power है तो वो और ज्यादा dominance show करेगी, और जब जब dominance show होगा तो वो reciprocate होगा in a wrong manner only in front of those people, जहाँ पे हमें problem जो है आराम से सुलझानी चाहिए. समझ में आया why it was? Understood बच्चे?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, now let's understand that why many violence acts fail. ठीक है, तो most violences they target civilians या फिर excessive force use करते हैं, right? या फिर वो basically जो हमारे पास में violence है वो किस लिए हो रहा है? Because of hatred it is happening, right? And it is not last resort, right? There are certain solutions which we can use, but still we are basically using violence only, right? यहाँ पे हमें क्या rule दिया हुआ है कि जब हमारे पास में last resort होगा only then we'll use violence. तो मास बेसिकली हमारे पास में क्यों फेल हो जाता है? क्योंकि हम वायलेंस को ही लास्ट रिजोर्ट समझ लेते हैं या फिर अपनी फर्स्ट प्रायोरिटी समझ लेते हैं, राइट? उसके बाद में सो दे फेल बोथ जस्ट एंड एट बेलम आल्सो एंड बेसिकली जस्ट इन बेलो आल्सो. ठीक है, मतलब जो एथिक्स हमारे पास होने चाहिए व्हाइल कंसीडरिंग दी वायलेंस और जो एथिक्स होने चाहिए व्हाइल गोइंग इन दी वायलेंस, दोनों फेल हो जाते हैं बिकॉज ऑफ दीज रीजन. समझ में आया इतना? ओके, एक्सप्लेन देन एक्सप्लेन अनदर पार्ट ऑफ दिस. Ara.
Just for experience that, how can we talk about ethically? When we say ethically, it means there should be a conduct by which we can follow the war. There's a two theories, that just below and just in below. Just below says that we have a 6-point limit. First is just to go for war. There's a reason. Every war should be followed by a reason. There should be a reasoning for which they are fighting, and there should be a legitimate authority which was leading the war, who is responsible for who's taking the responsibility of whatever is happening. And third is the right intention. There should be a right intention for fighting a war against anyone. There should be a ethical, there should be a good moral behind it, and it should be a last resort. Firstly, we go through the solutions which is can be done ethically or morally, and this could be a last resort only. And we consider the probability of having a good result, and prosperity of proportionality of the good result should be the high. And in just in below, we have 3 points. First is distinction. Second is probability.
It's probability. Which one? Proportionately.
And third is necessity of militant. First, describe that distinction means distinguish the citizens which are not related to war in a different category. And proportionality means using the force in a good proportion and not using it in an excessive way. And the necessity of militant means using the necessary amount of militant in a particular area.
Okay, good. Yes, Saptarishi. Saptarishi.
Yes, ma'am. So the basic idea is how if the word is ethical or the violence is ethical or not. So in this case, we are talking about how any work or any action, ethical action, actually fails being ethical or not. So in this case, it will be ethical. We actually have to look at the cause, the context behind the word. Like for example, in India, during Operation Sindoor, India had a right cause regarding why they used violence against terrorism and as well as Pakistani military territory. As well as there should be legitimate authority, like whoever using the violence should be legitimate regarding their position, as well as they should have legitimacy regarding the citizens and all that. So in this case, India as a sovereign nation has the legitimacy to actually use violence because they wanted to protect themselves from the terrorism and actually deliver justice to the people, as well as there should be this should be the last resort. The violence as well as the war should be the last resort regarding solving any problem, because war has a deep consequence. For example, I might say in Mahabharata Kurukshetra war, we can see that Pandavas actually tried to negotiate, but ultimately, when Kauravas didn't hear to them, ultimately they went to war. So, in a sense, the war should always be a last resort in whatever situation can be. And there is the probability, like we should actually think if the violence uh, would bring any bad consequences. If there is probability of actually creating great havoc, then this violence should not be used. Then there is a proportionality, like if we know that there could be bad consequences, then we should actually see if the good consequence is better, more than the bad consequence. If it is less, then we should not be violent. For example, when Israel attacked Hamas, they had some intention to actually destroy the terrorism, but they already knew that their actions would actually cause havoc and kill lot of young children's, women's, innocent people, but they actually went with it. So in essence, this is unethical on Israel's part. Then we are saying when we can actually go to war or right to go to war. For example, there should be distinction between what is right and what is wrong. Like for example, in India's case, India went to uh, war against terrorism because they actually determined between had distinction between what is right and what is wrong, what should be done, what should not be done. Then there is a proportionality, like how much force should be used regarding any violence. Like the example I provided, that the excessive use of force on a peaceful protesters is going actually going against the idea of where we should use violence and not. So this is the ways of how we actually can decide if the violence is ethical or not, and it actually totally depends on the perspective of the viewer if the violence is right or wrong. Because ultimately, everything actually depends on the perspective of the people who are involved in this. So, like in example, what I provided that India's use of force against terrorism is very much ethical in the eyes of Indians, but it might be not ethical in the eyes of Pakistan. So this is the difference between how we can actually decide what is ethical or what is not regarding the violence as well as war.
Okay, perfect. Shivani बच्चे.
Discussing, mostly violence is seen as it does not pass any ethical test, but sometimes there can be just causes for violence. One is that we are seeing at below means the right to war. Who has right to create violence? Who has right to war? Uh, Cause is one is that we should have a just cause to fight a war. That we have some legitimate reason. We have some just cause why we are going to war. And one more thing is that legitimate authority should be there. That is, who is participating in this war, who is going to conduct this war. They should have some legitimate authority. For example, uh, as Saptashi has said, in case of India and terrorism, India is acting against terrorism because we are suffering. We are victims of some heinous acts by terrorists. So we have some legitimate authority to go against them. And then there should be right intention. We have the end goal should be correct. That is, the end goal should be right. There should be right intention. That is, some benefit to society or safety or country. Some right intention should be there to fight a war. And then again, it should violence or war should only be our last resort. if there is any way to resolve this peacefully or by dialogue or any other means, then we should first try other means to resolve our problems or conflicts. Even if it is only last resort, only then can we go to war. And then we should see probability also. We should count our probability of success. If we are committing a war or an act of violence, what is the success that our cause is being successful? If it was if even if we commit this act of violence, there will be no success and no change to happen, then we should not go to this war or act of violence. Then we should also see proportionality. We should see that the harm that is we are causing by going to war or an act of violence should not be greater than the good it will bring. It should not be greater than the gains we will gain by doing this war. And then conduct of war is there. What are the ethical conducts of war that are being given? One is that we should see distinction in who we are harming. Even if we are committing violence, we should only see the people responsible are being punished or our cause is being justified. We should not harm innocents in between this. We should distinguish between who we are harming and why we are doing this. And then there is proportionality. We should not use excessive force when we are trying to, even if we are going to violence, we should not use excessive force. For example, there was a peaceful crowd protesting. If it was somewhat aggressive, police force can be, police can come there and take charge, but they should not start shooting or start fire. There should be proportion to consequences are there. And then
Okay.
next is that how we are using military power. We should also use this according to the situation only. If our opponents are 15 members, we can use a force of 30 or 50. But we should not try to intimidate people of some less people with a very high amount of force, because that will come into oppression. There should be proportionality in this also.
Okay,
That's
good. Now let's consider a few examples. Now when we talk about example, let's take genocide. Now when we talk about genocide, consider killing on basis of race and religion. So in which category will you put it? In this, which category will you put it? What we have failed?
Genocide can be done because of religion as well as race. So this is in all sense it is unethical.
Which one?
Genocide actually uses race and religion at the same time. So I think it is in whole sense genocide is unethical in whatever situation it can be.
Okay. Are
We are studying just a one. And the topic you have mentioned, it's like failed ethical test, and we are studying the ethical conduct. So how can
I didn't understand your question.
यहाँ पे हम लोग टॉपिक पढ़ रहे हैं तो पढ़ रहे हैं एथिकली फेल होता है इंसान तभी मास वॉल्यूम होती है और हम अभी तक जो डिस्कस किए हैं वो सारी चीजें हमने एथिकल वे से ही बहुत जानने की बात की तो कैसे कनेक्ट होंगे
यहाँ पे लिखा है many mass violence acts fail ethical test. So these are the just in value वाला जो है, this first scene is basically telling us that what are the ways कि हमें ये rules, ये ethical rules है जो मैंने लिखे हैं यहाँ पे दोनों में ही, these are the ethical rules. If we are not following them, if we are not distinctioning, right, we are not going with proportionality, we are not going with probability, right, तो हम लोग क्या कर रहे हैं, we are basically going against the ethics, we are going against the ethical values, these are the ethical rules that we have, right. अगर इसके अगेंस्ट हम लोग जा रहे हैं, सॉरी, हाँ, which result in violence. Violence is a one factor of basically genocide is one factor of violence. Violence का ही पार्ट है genocide. Mass killing भी violence का पार्ट है. समझ में आया? Violence क्या है? How will you define violence? Define it. Take time. I don't want word, sentence, paragraph. Give me syllabus. Anything. Violence को कैसे define करोगे? सप्तऋषि, violence को कैसे define करोगे? How will you define the violence?
So mass violence Violence is actually intentional, violent criminal act that actually results in physical, emotional, as well as psychological injury to a sufficiently sufficiently large number of people or a group of people.
Hmm. Now, how will you put it?
What is violence? Ma'am, violence means hurting someone's sentiments, hurting emotions.
इमोशनली गुड। तो ये वायलेंस हुआ, तो जीनोसाइड को वायलेंस बोलेंगे हम, मास किलिंग को वायलेंस बोलेंगे। तो हम यहाँ पर क्यों पढ़ रहे हैं दोनों चीजें? व्हाई वी आर रीडिंग दीज टू थिंग्स? बिकॉज दीज आर द एथिकल रूल्स दैट वी हैव, राइट? कि हमें देखो भाई, हमें बेसिकली चलना है कोज समझ के पहले तो, कि व्हाट इज द कोज बिहाइंड दैट वायलेंस। उसके बाद में वी हैव टू अंडरस्टैंड द लेजिटिमेट अथॉरिटी, वी हैव टू राइट अंडरस्टैंड द इंटेंशन आल्सो। सो दीज आर द रूल्स दैट वी हैव, राइट? सो दीज आर द एथिकल रूल्स वी हैव टू हैव। ठीक है, ये लाइन क्या एक्सप्लेन कर रही है? अगर हम ये एथिकल रूल्स को नहीं मानते हैं, सो वी आर गोइंग टू फेल इन एथिकल टेस्ट। अंडरस्टूड? ओके, what we were discussing before that? Okay, yes. So there is example genocide, right? So now basically killing is done on the basis of religion and race. So in which category will you put it over here? कि क्या गलत किया होगा? In which category we failed over here? Okay, intention, good, very good. Intention. What else? Hmm. Hmm.
And they are not caring about the probability.
Hmm.
What will come.
Hmm.
And the cause of the war is not
Justified. Okay, good. Okay. Now removing a, okay, ethnic cleansing we'll talk. Ethnic cleansing क्या होती है? When we are removing a community violently, ठीक है, जब हम एक कम्युनिटी को हटा देते हैं वहां से, ठीक है, that is known as ethnic cleansing. इसमें क्या क्या होगा? इंटेंशन भी होगा, प्रोपोर्शनैलिटी. ओके, प्रोपोर्शनैलिटी कैसे होगा? हाउ द वर्ड प्रोपोर्शनैलिटी will fit in this situation?
they are only caring about their own community and maybe the other community is in a large proportion.
Okay, Saptarishi.
Ethnic cleansing is like actually using violence to eliminate a group or community based on their ethnicity, because the superior authority actually believes that this ethnicity actually causing harm to their own self-interest. So in essence, they are actually trying to completely eliminate this group through using many methods like killing. It can be like stopping them from having child, as well as it can be like uh, destroying their culture, heritage, as well as uh, taking their child away from them. So in a sense, these are many methods how ethnic cleansing can be happened, but can be done by the superior authority uh, on the minority or minor communities of the nation.
Okay. Okay, समझ में आया इतना? कोई भी क्या
आवाज नहीं
क्या मैं बोल रहा था? Saptarishi, what were you explaining about this na genocide? Your voice was not clear at the end.
Yes, ma'am.
You were explaining this proportionality, right?
Yes, ma'am.
Your voice was not clear at the end.
Okay, so there might be some disturbances because I am in the hospital, so there may be some disturbances today. But I am saying that in the case of genocide, every idea of why, how a violence can be ethical can't be justified. Like for example, there is no context, there is no proportionality, there is no regarding the possibility also. Like they know that the whatever they are going to do is bad. If in case of proportionality, like they know this whatever genocide is being done, the consequence is so bad, there can be no good benefit. So in a sense, the bad consequence uh, actually exceeds the limit of this benefit they are talking about. So in a sense, genocide can't be can't be justified by any means. Like we can't justify it by context. We can justify it by legitimate authority, as well as we can justify it by right uh, intention, last resort, or possibility, or uh, proportionality. So, in essence, genocide can never be ethical. In essence, it is always unethical practice.
And we were discussing proportionality in connection of ethical values.
In terms of first just in value. So what did he say? He said कि अगर हमारे पास में क्लियरेंस ही नहीं है कि हमारा जो आउटकम होगा वो लार्ज नंबर पर होगा या नहीं, राइट, और बेसिकली वो इतना अच्छा होगा या नहीं जिस बेसिस पर हमने उस ग्रुप को रिमूव किया था, राइट. सो द रीजन माइट बी कि उन्होंने कंसीडर किया कि हमारे लिए सोसाइटी के लिए हार्मफुल है, राइट. नाउ नाउ बिकॉज दे हैव लाइक रिमूव द कम्युनिटी, तो लार्जर जो आउटकम है कि जो वर्ल्ड के पास में पिक्चर आई दैट केम टू बी लाइक वेरी वायलेंट या फिर वो बहुत बैड टर्म्स में आई है, राइट. सो दैट्स आल्सो अनएथिकल, राइट. तो उस टर्म में ही सेड इट. Understood till here? Is there anything that you want me to explain again? Now we are going to understand few philosophers, right, and what exactly they said about it. Now, first of all, let's understand Saint Augustine. What did he say about this violence, right? So basically, Saint Augustine says that war is bad, but sometimes it is necessary to protect peace and justice. So what he is doing, he is somewhere basically justifying and supporting the idea of war. But then again, each and every thinker, each and every philosopher who is justifying or supporting the war theory, they are not saying ki, do each and every day war. No, they are basically saying that if a situation arises where you do not have any option, last resort, the ethical rule, right? If there is no other option and you have to choose the violence, you have to choose the war, then you should choose the war. As it has been like said by one more philosopher, who is he? That, to have changes, to have revolution in a society, right, you need war, right? War should be there, because whenever war is going to happen, revolution will happen in the society. और अगर revolution नहीं आएगा, changes नहीं आएंगे society पे, तो imagine us being there in 1999. हम रह पाएंगे 2026 की हम लोग यहाँ पर है और हमारा वही माइंडसेट है, टेक्नोलॉजी चेंज नहीं हो रही है, riots नहीं आ रहा है, वायलेंस नहीं आ रहा है, वॉर नहीं आ रहा है, तो क्या कोई चेंज आएगा? नहीं. So for the betterment, for the development, we need wars, we need changes, right? Most of the philosophers have like the same philosophy, same theory. ठीक है, पीछे का कंटेक्स्ट यही है कि पीस और स्टेबिलिटी क्रिएट करने के लिए, बेटरमेंट ऑफ द सोसाइटी के लिए, वी नीड वॉर, वी नीड वायलेंस. ठीक है, अंडरस्टूड? Okay, so when we talk about Augustine, he was a Christian thinker, and he said कि Christianity जो है, it brings love and it brings peace to us, right? So, but if evil attacks innocent people, then what state must do? State must stop it, right? So he is basically supporting violence in terms of the state, in terms of the civilians, right? So society के purpose पर he is basically supporting the violence. समझ में आया सेंट ऑगस्टीन का? Okay, now after this we have Thomas Aquinas. So basically what Thomas is telling to us, he gave clear conditions. And what were the conditions? He said that we should like meet three conditions, right? These three conditions must be satisfied. First is legitimate authority. It means only a proper government can declare war. ऐसा नहीं है कि RA didn't like something, right? तो उसने क्या कर दिया? War छेड़ दिया, right? So what we should have legitimate authority to create the war. ठीक है? अगर कोई authority है who is in position, who we have given the power, only that authority can create the or basically do the vote, right? उसके बाद में हमारे पास में another point, the same one over here, just cause. What was just cause, Arif? Just cause. Okay, so when we talk about just cause, there must be a serious reason, right? Like self-defense is there, you are punishing someone, you are protecting someone, right? So these terms should be met in there. ठीक है? तीसरा हमारे पास में क्या है? Another third pointer from here, right intention. कि अपने फायदे के लिए, सेल्फ गेन के लिए, वी डू नॉट हैव टू डू द वायलेंस. ठीक है, हमें किसके लिए करना है? हमें करना है सोसाइटी के लिए, राइट? समझ में आया क्या बोला उसने? ठीक है, इसके साथ में हमारे पास है अनदर थिंकर, दैट इज माइकल वोल्जर. Now, what Michael Wolzer is telling to us, that even during war, morality does not disappear, right? Basically, what he's saying that moral is not moral free zone, right? Morality is present there in wars also, right? So he presents to us two important ideas. First, distinction. So in distinctions, he says कि soldiers can be targeted, right? He says that civilians cannot be targeted. So killing civilians intentionally is always and always wrong. So the distinction part which we have read over here. Okay, this is said to us by whom? By Michael. Okay. Then another proportionality. What is telling to us that force used not to be excessive, right? If a small threat is answered with massive destruction, it will be considered as what? It will be considered unjust. Okay, understood all these philosophers?
Yes, ma'am.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. Now let's move to another slide of today's. Media and technology. Okay. First of all, explain this. How can I forget? Explain me the thinkers only. Only thinkers.
Justify the war in the way that if the war is for development, for social development, for structural development, it can be justified. If it's for the society, for the citizens. And Mr. Thomas have explained the way how can we for ethical war, how a war can be justified in a three terms. First is there should be a legitimate authority who lead the war. No, not anyone can be a leader. There should be a legitimate one. And there should be a and there should be a right intention. For the wrong intention, the war is not fully justified. And third, there is Michael Walzer, who said that there should be a proportionality. Excessive use of power is not good, and what he has mentioned.
Distinction he mentioned.
Okay.
Intention he mentioned.
Intention? My intention is mentioned by Thomas.
Oh, just a second. Proportionality is mentioned.
Yeah. Proportionality, he told that there should be not use of excessive power of the force, and there should be a distinction when the citizens were not engaged in war. And he said that targeting the civilians is not justified. They can fought war between the islands only. If the civilians are targeted, that is not morally justified.
Okay. Yes, next. Srinidhi.
Yes, ma'am. We are seeing about thinkers, what thinkers are saying about war. First, we are seeing Saint Augustine. He says that war is not good. It was not a good consequence, but sometimes it was necessary to go to war to keep order and peace in a society, to maintain peace and to protect ourselves. Sometimes war is necessary to protect civilians from harm and other violent groups. War is sometimes necessary. This is Saint Augustine's view on war. And then there, Thomas Aquinas also gave some views on war. He gave three clauses. One is legitimate authority. Who is doing war? Who goes to war? They should be legitimate, and their authority should be recognized. Only they can go to war, and then there should be a just cause for going to a war. We should have some uh, reasonable excuse to go to war, and then there should be right intention why we are doing this war. What gain is there? There should always be the intention should always be right. That is, it should be for the benefit of society, not personal gain or things like that. If all three clauses are satisfied, only then can war be defined as ethical. Only then we should go to war. And this is according to Thomas Aquinas. And then we have use of Manuel Walzer. He says that during the war, the conduct is also very important. We should distinguish between who we are supposed to harm and who we should not harm. He says that soldiers can be harmed during war, but civilians must not be harmed uh, by enemy country or whichever two parties cannot be harmed during war. He says that this must be maintained. This distinction must be seen. And then he also speaks about proportion. That how much harm can be done. If these conditions are met, only then war can be called as ethical, according to him. We have discussed about these answers.
Okay. Next.
So basically, there are few philosophers priests who are actually saying, actually talking about the legitimacy of any violence, or actually finding when we have the right to go to war or peace. So here we are talking about Saint Augustus, uh, who is actually, yes, for some, he is not actually supporting war, but he's saying that we can go to war if it is very much needed. I mean, he is in a way justifying the war regarding why we should go to war and why not. So in a sense, he is actually supporting the war, but for the right cause. For example, he might be talking about when this idea that in Europe, there was crusade and all that. So, I mean, they are fighting against the uh, Muslims of Middle East in Europe. So in a sense, the idea might be that like they are protecting their region because so the war is ethical from their perspective. So this is a viewpoint. Then there is Thomas uh, so in this case, he is actually talking about where we should have the right to go to war. For example, war should always be declared by a legitimate authority. Like for example, it's sovereign nation like India. Random person can't actually declare war on any nation and all that. Then comes there should be a just cause. There should be a real cause behind that. There should be right intention behind the war. Like for example, when America went attacked Iraq to destroy the terrorism or the terror biological chemical weapons. They declare the rumor of biological weapons and all that. So they attacked Iraq to stop that. But in reality, they were actually just attacking Iraq because there was a storage of oil. They needed the Iraqi oil. So in a sense, this is not the right. There is no right cause and there is no right intention behind it. So this is not where one should go to war. So this is the ideas of this philosopher. Then comes the Michael Walzer, who actually saying that when you are going to war, the war should be very much ethical in the sense that the soldiers should not attack the innocent civilians or the people who are very much who are not involved in this fighting process, as well as the violence should not be done on them, as well as the force used should be very much proportional to the people who are on whom the force is being used. For example, in a peaceful protest, the authority should not use extreme violence. Uh, the violence should be used proportionally regarding the viewpoint of the nation. As well as the possibility as well as the proportionality, everything should be considered before actually using violence and all. So this is the various ideas of these philosophers as well as we are talking about.
Good. Okay. Understood here, everything? Okay. Now, media and technology. So, when we talk about media, media is basically a tool which is basically, it can create information also and it can create misinformation also, right? But social media amplifies misinformation and radicalization. Misinformation and radicalization. What it might be saying to us?
In today's life, social media is using for more using for creating misinformation and misleading the society.
Hmm.
As you have taught us today in current affairs classes,
Hmm.
they are using of AI
Hmm.
in a way, in a wrong way.
Hmm.
Like they are creating a videos of a person and using their same voice and misleading the society
Hmm.
that they are saying all that, but it's not true. So social media is creating
Hmm.
misinformation.
Okay. So when we talk about social media, so in today's world, violence is not created with guns first, right? It is created by what? It is created by social media. How it is created? It is created by rumors. It is created by memes. It is created by misinformation. And like there are lots and lots of things. Propaganda elsewhere. So these are the things by which these misinformation is created, right? Now when we talk about media, right, it basically starts with all these things, right? But when we talk about media, social media basically spread misinformation very fast, right? If the misinformation is very false and it's very hateful, then it will lead to what? It will create what? It will create anger. It will create fear. It will create division also. Right? So in today's time, social media is considered very important tool in spreading information also, and very basically harmful in spreading misinformation also, right? So now when we talk about this radicalization, how social media helps radicalization, what is radicalization? Ara, what is radicalization? Saptarishi?
Yes, sir. Radicalization in this case is like manipulating someone to go to the extreme viewpoint of any idea. It can be religious, uh, it can be social ideas also. Like it can be in many fields. I mean, the idea that some person is being manipulated to go to the extreme of that idea is the radicalization. Is the basic concept.
Okay. Now let's understand that how basically, social media helps in radicalization, right? So social media shows you content similar to what you already like, right? That's known as what? That's known as an algorithm,
Algorithm.
right? On the basis of this, we seize the content, right? And it repeats extreme ideas also, right? It creates echo chambers that you only hear one side, right? So imagine that you are a big fan of Trump. Okay. Now, what algorithm is doing to you? No, because you have like watched one reel where you have liked a reel, maybe you saved it or you like watched it with the duration, right? It considered it to be your algorithm where Trump is speaking that I'm involved and I'm not involved in Jeffrey Epstein case, right? And you somewhere watched it full. Now, what Instagram will do? Instagram will show the innocence of Trump, right? Those kinds of reels is like going to be seen, right, in your algorithm, right? So what it is creating, it is creating the echo chamber, that whatever you are liking, social media is showing you that. So this is creating what? One side of the story. One by one, again and again, you are going to see the same kind of thing over there, right? So this is going to spread rumors faster than effects, right? So when people constantly see that they are your enemy, right, and they say that they are dangerous, they are destroying the nation, right? So they basically start believing it. Why? Because you are consuming this kind of data. That's one side of the story, right? So moral thinking here becomes what? Moral thinking over here becomes weak. Understood? Understood till here? Okay.
Yes,
Now,
sir.
we have basically thinkers over here. The first thinker that we have is Henna. Havache. Exactly. Good. So first thinker that we have is Henna, right? So she says that totalitarian regimes use propaganda to control thinking. She argued that when people stop thinking critically, right, what will happen? They become easy tool for violence. You are not using your mind. You are basically trusting Trump blindly, right? Why? Because you are following them. You are not basically analyzing the situation, right? You are blind in that phase. So this is exactly what she's saying, that today social media acts like a propaganda machinery. Understood till here?
Yes, sir.
Saptarishi?
Yes, sir.
Okay. After this, we have Michael Fold. Okay. Now, what Michael is telling to us, that power works through discourse. It means it works through language. It works through narratives, right? Who controls language controls the truth, right? So, social media creates truth through the repetitions. When hate speech becomes normal, violence becomes acceptable. What it means?
Is normalizing the hate resulting in normalizing the violence.
Okay. Saptarishi?
Yes, ma'am. So the basic idea that someone's power very much depends on the narrative that is being pushed. For example, when Trump won the election, it was very much due to the push from Elon Musk as well as the social media houses who actually backed Trump and actually ran a narrative in the America that Trump is the only one who can bring American people from poverty and unemployment and all that. So in essence, this is the way how power actually very much is influenced by the narrative. In India also, we can see that narrative is very much essential to actually promote power as well as control the votes. So as a result, every political party, be it anyone, actually have some IT cells who are actually working for them. So in essence, to actually promote their own narrative in this case. So this is how narrative by social media or by the media houses is being used to actually promote power throughout the world.
So imagine there is what two societies, right? So this is first society, this is second society. Here even stealing is considered very wrong, right? But in society too, we have, basically punishment like capital punishment is there. Now if a punishment like capital punishment is there, it means what? Basically there are like lots and lots of criminal activities happening there, right? So if they are like, basically they are accepting stealing also, right? Sorry, they are basically neglecting stealing also. But here even murder, killing is considered to be normal. On basis of what I have taught you, tell me the concept behind it. Why is it so?
Society when their moral thinking is strong
Hmm.
and they are not that much fragile to the propaganda.
Okay, this is related to the word reputation. Huh. Like social media creates the truth through reputation, है ना? कैसे करता है? बार बार एक ही एल्गोरिदम के साथ में एक ही न्यूज बार बार दिखा रहा है तुम्हें, ठीक है? रिपीटेशन, ठीक है? यहाँ पे रिपीटेशन, रेप्यूटेशन नहीं, रिपीटेशन. ई तो लिखा है यहाँ पे, आई है.
The crime in society, in society, there is a large number of crimes, and there is a reputation in there is a kind of reputation in crime. So they are accepting it as normal.
Okay.
So that is why there is a capital punishment too. But for the society one, the crime is not normal, and there is not a repetition of the crime. So for them, it is also very big.
Okay, makes sense. Srinidhi?
Yes, ma'am. I think, ma'am, maybe it may be due to habit. And because in society one there was no crime, almost no crime. So they are used to seeing crime. And in society too, there was always some crime happening. People are seeing daily they are seeing some sort of crime and some sort of illegal activities. They become accustomed to it. So they see that as a they are habituated to that kind of life, so they don't see it as some uh, very serious thing. They are accustomed to it, and they see it as a part of their daily life. It becomes routine and normal. So due to this, there is this distinction, I think, between two societies.
Okay, समझ में आया? यहाँ तक समझ आया सब कुछ? Okay.
Ma'am, I did not understand what this second thinker said about this.
Which one? Second thinker? Michael, but Michael, we are discussing Michael only. What did he say? That who controls the language controls the truth. How will you describe it? In today's context, it's actually fit that whoever controls the language controls the truth.
And as well as we know the line that the winners decide the history. So whoever actually controls the narrative actually controls the history as well as has happened. I mean, the narrative is very much controlled by the power who has won. The winners decide the history, not the losers or who has lost the battle.
Okay, so when we talk about this power works through discourse, it means what? Power is not something we are talking about police, guns, or these things. No. We are talking about language, we are talking about culture, we are talking about education, narratives, all these things are power we are talking about, right? So he called this discourse, right? So basically, what is discourse? Discourse means the way society talks about something, right? Basically, you know, if like media is repeatedly saying that this group is dangerous, this society is criminal, we have to save ourselves from this, right? So they are filling your mind with this again and again, repeatedly you are hearing this, right? So after some time people will start believing it, right? So that becomes truth in the society. Why? Because you are basically feeding yourself that again and again, right? Even if it is false, huh? Exactly, right? So the discourse is the way people talk about something. So who is talking about truth over here? Media. Media is filling your mind with these terms, right? Now, who controls language? Who controls the truth? It means that truth is not always pure and neutral, right? Basically, truth is created by institution, it is created by media, it is created by political system, it is created by the experts also, right? So if powerful group controls language, they can shape what society accepts as true as well. है ना? So this is called what? This is known as power knowledge. समझ में आया? लैंग्वेज कैसे कंट्रोल करता है, नरेटिव कैसे कंट्रोल करता है, राइट? नाउ सोशल मीडिया रिपीट मैसेजेस अगेन एंड अगेन. आज तक में देखा है ना? अब मैंने आज तक की न्यूज देखी, आई रियली वांट टू से इट कि मैंने आज तक की न्यूज देखी है एंड द इमोशनल फीलिंग दे डू इन आवर माइंड. My father watches news, ठीक है, and suppose there is an incident where you know someone hurt someone, ठीक है, किसी ने किसी को थप्पड़ मार दिया फिर कुछ भी, तो आफ्टर लाइक टेलिंग वन लाइन, ठीक है, कि उन्होंने उसको थप्पड़ मार दिया और उसके बाद में दे प्ले द इमोशनल गेम. इमेजिन व्हाट ही माइट बी फीलिंग, इमेजिन द ट्रॉमा ही माइट बी गोइंग थ्रू, इमेजिन हाउ ही विल सर्वाइव इन द सोसाइटी. इतनी बड़ी बात भी नहीं थी वो. And this is exactly what media does. They fill your mind with emotional baggages and they fill your mind with fake news also. They'll repeat that news जब तक तुम्हारा भर नहीं जाता दिमाग उस न्यूज से, जब तक तुम इमोशनली बर्डन फील नहीं कर देते, राइट, तब तक वो रिपीट करते रहेंगे. आज तक की तुम न्यूज देखो, वो एक ही बात को बार बार बोलेंगे कि सोचो कैसा लग रहा होगा, सोचो कैसा लग रहा होगा. तो सोचना पड़ेगा तुम्हें क्योंकि वो बार बार बोल रहे हैं तुम्हें, राइट? सो दैट्स एग्जैक्टली व्हाट हैपेंस हियर कि सोशल मीडिया इज बेसिकली spreading that hate speech daily again and again, right? So it becomes what? It becomes normal to us, है ना? So when something becomes normal, people stop questioning it and same thing happens over here, right? क्योंकि इतने सारे क्राइम होते रहते हैं, so now you know capital punishment is something, you know, it's okay, it's there, है ना? है ना? कैपिटल पनिशमेंट कोई बड़ी बात नहीं है. बट इमेजिन अ कंट्री जहां पर बेसिकली क्राइम के केसेस होते ही नहीं है, जहां पर स्टीलिंग इज कंसीडर्ड समथिंग वेरी हीनियस क्राइम, right? Now that person is coming to this country, now he listens कि capital punishment है यहाँ पर, right? So he is shocked with that, right? So this is not normal to that person, but it is normal to this country's people. Why? Because they have like heard so many cases, heard so many criminal cases that it's very normal to them. कैपिटल पनिशमेंट भी है और उसके साथ साथ में बाकी क्रिमिनल केसेस होते रहते हैं, सीरियल किलर्स भी है, बहुत आम सी बात है, तिहाड़ जेल बनी हुई है, राइट? बट फॉर दिस पीपल इट विल बी कंसीडर्ड वेरी वेरी यू नो बिग थिंग फॉर देम. ठीक है, समझ में आया यहाँ तक? ओके, हाँ, कि सिर्फ हमेशा पावर अथॉरिटी हमारी हेट स्पीच स्प्रेड नहीं करती है. नरेटिव हमारा लैंग्वेज के बेसिस पे भी बनता है, कल्चर के बेसिस पर भी बनता है, एंड द वे हियर द न्यूज ऑन द बेसिस ऑफ दैट आल्सो. बिल्कुल, ठीक है. So what we are understanding that if we are like repeatedly using and inhaling this news again and again, fake information again and again, so what will happen? Hate speech जो है हमारी वो और ज्यादा बढ़ती रहेगी. जो हमारे ग्रुप हैं that will be labeled, right? Labeled as what? As enemy, right? Differences will be created in the society, right? उसके साथ साथ में fear हमारा बढ़ जाएगा, moral sympathy खत्म हो जाएगी, violence जो हो जाएगा, violence will be justified. ये तो आम सी बात है, होता रहता है, right? तो यही सोशल मीडिया कर रहा है. समझ में आया यहाँ तक? Understood till here?
Yes.
Everything? Any pointer you want me to repeat?
Yes.
आ रहा है नोट्स कैसे बना रही हो बच्चे? क्लासेस ले रही हो तुम रेगुलर, ये तो लिख रही हो ना साथ साथ रोज जाकर? रोज लिखोगी तो ज्यादा टाइम नहीं लगेगा, ठीक है? छोटा छोटा पोर्शन लिखोगी. वेरी गुड, परफेक्ट परफेक्ट. सो लाइक यू आर रीडिंग इन द क्लासरूम आल्सो या फिर घर जाके तुम? गुड. समझ में आ रहा है ना ईच एंड एवरीथिंग? फिलोसफर्स भी समझ में आ रहा है? क्योंकि आई एम नॉट ओनली प्रिपेयरिंग यू फॉर यूपीएससी, ठीक है। यूपीएससी का अगर फिलोसफी का सिलेबस देखोगे ना, इतना सा छोटा सा है, ठीक है। दीज फिलोसफर्स आर नॉट देयर। आई एम प्रिपेयरिंग यू फॉर पॉलिटी ऑल्सो, गवर्नेंस ऑल्सो, फॉर एथिक्स ऑल्सो, एसे ऑल्सो। खुद पढ़ने से अच्छा है मुझसे पढ़ लो। एसे में तो बिना इन थिंकर्स के तुम लिख ही नहीं सकती हो, एथिक्स में भी इन थिंकर्स के बिना तुम लिख ही नहीं सकती हो, पॉलिटी में भी तुम ऑलरेडी ये थिंकर्स पढ़ने वाली हो, तो मुझसे पढ़ लो। चल जा रहे हैं तुम्हारे
नहीं, मतलब क्लास में अपने मेरे वो नहीं रहती है
क्या कि तुम प्रिपेयर करके आओ, मैं जवाब दे दूं, है ना। ठीक है, चलो मैं तुम्हें टॉपिक बता देती हूँ, कल मैं क्या कराऊंगी। आई टेक्स्ट यू, ठीक है, और तुम पढ़ के आओ कल। नहीं नहीं, ट्राई नहीं, तुम पढ़ कर आओ, ठीक है। चलो, दिस इज इट फॉर टुडे। Srinidhi, are you okay, बच्चे? You didn't participate much today. Is everything okay?
Yes, ma'am, everything is okay. Ma'am, I want to ask this about thinkers we have studied, about their opinions on war.
Hmm.
Is there not any criticism to this all these thinkers? We did not see. We just saw their opinions only.
You want criticism also?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay,
Ma'am,
in the
I
next
think
class, हाँ बच्चे।
just what I'm seeing is that everyone is justifying war, and they're saying right cause, or first Saint Augustine is saying that it is sometimes necessary to keep order and peace in a
Hmm.
society. So whose perspective are we seeing this from? Because if we see from one perspective, it can be justified. Even oppression can be justified as maintaining peace.
See, if any philosopher, any thinker you'll see, basically, supporting war. So they are supporting on the basis of this only, that you have to justify it for the society, right? No personal gain should be there. This is the like common ground they are setting up. Each and every thinker is saying the same thing. Understood? Not a single philosopher is there who is saying that in every way war can be justified, right? On these are the basically basic ground that they have set. If you want criticism, what I will do, I'll bring the criticism tomorrow. Okay?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, but I'll see you tomorrow.
Thank you.
Thank you, ma'am.
Thank you.